everyone. Welcome to Gossip Talk Shows. My name is Nomsa Clara Mngube. I'm the founder of Hope Spring Eternal Introduction Agency and the founder of Gossip Talk Shows. So with me today, I have Dr. Biget Tan and Carol Ann Cooper. These are Gossip Talk Shows speakers and coaches. I'm going to let Dr. Biget introduce herself. Please introduce yourself, Dr. Biget.
Thank you, Numsa. Would you love to be able to easily recover from any angst and pain and heartbreak and challenges that you might have, any adversities, and create a life that you really, really love and do that easily and actually with lots of fun? To overcome all your fears, to let go things that have been keeping you stuck. I'm Birgit Tan, and that is what I do to help people, to help you overcome things that is keeping you where you are, from being able to live a life of truly full peace of mind and joy and ease and abundance, a life that you truly love and deserve, and doing that easily as a grief transformation coach, speaker, and author. And I look forward to be sharing with you some wonderful tips today and working together even more from here, if that's what calls you.
You're muted,
Nomsa. Thank you. Over to you, Carol Ann. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
And good afternoon from London, UK. And my name is Carol Ann. And as the transformational, I transform people's writing as the writing facilitator. And I transform it in as much as I get you in touch with your deeper innate ability to write. But more importantly, what you experience is free-flowing writing. You experience an unlocking of the writer within and getting your book written, getting your story written, because you cannot publish what isn't written. And all of this has come about through my own journey of unlocking the writer within. So transformational journey is writing your book and overcoming whatever fears, whatever anxieties and concerns there are in getting that done.
Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much, Carol Ann. Basically, our topic today is how to overcome greatest fear. And I know, Carol Ann, you chose this topic for today. And I would like to hear from you why you chose this topic, and if you can explain to our audience, please.
Yes, how to overcome your greatest fear is something I think is there for a lot of people. They have a fear which holds them back, and they allow it to hold them back. And I remember I used to have a huge fear of spiders. And I mean, to that point where I used to freeze, I get the palpitations, and it's like, no, and I get everyone else, or I used to get my ex-husband, or I remember my dad to go and pick them up. And even the flying daddy long legs, I used to be frightened of. I remember my mum, September time, she always used to do her chutneys and her pickles, and she'd have the doors open to the garden, and in would come these flying daddy long legs, and I'd be going absolutely petrified. And she'd just pick them up and take them out. She'd do the same with spiders, just pick them up and take them out. And I was like, how can you do that, Mum? And but what's happened is that over the years, when I started training in other complementary fields, I've addressed this fear And I now, all these years later, I'm the one that my grandchildren come to. Nan, can you deal with this spider, please? I can't pick them up, but I can get rid of them. I'm quite happy to do something, or, get the Hoover, and I don't freeze anymore. I don't feel that same fear. But it's taken a lot of time and a lot of work to get there. And actually, the flying daddy longlegs, they don't bother me anymore. They really don't bother me. So as I said, it's taken a lot of different techniques over the years, and I'm working on that. And as I say, it's quite a turnaround now, because only the other night, my granddaughter's, Nan, there's a flying daddy longlegs in the bathroom and I want to shower. And I dealt with it, So it's really empowering when you can get over that fear and understand, that it is possible. But it does take some doing to get there. And there's other fears that I have, but I'm working on them. So I just thought it might be something really great to explore and discuss, because I'm sure there's a lot of fear going on at the moment that's here with what's happened over the last 18 months. And it brings up fears. And fear really is a completely irrational thing. Those letters, FEAR, false event appearing real. I used to imagine those spiders would jump on me. It's like, really? They didn't jump. If I got away with them, they'd scuttle away. So again, it's remembering, false event appearing real. And it is, it feels so real. But how do we deal with that? So I'm looking forward to chewing this over, discussing it, and seeing what your thoughts are. So what does this bring up for you, Dr. Brigitte?
Oh, that is so funny. I personally don't mind the spider as much as I mind the spider web. I have no idea. I handle the spider. I'm not a huge fan of spider. I will never have, say, pet spider. But I just have this, not so much fear, but I do avoid as much as possible the spider web, the cobweb, the web that particularly those that you can't really quite see, and then you just ran into it and you just like something like that, and because they're invisible, and I think my imaginary mind imagined the worst. Where I used to watch this movie as a very young child, and this was some old Asian miserable movie that, like, you ran into this big spider web and then you got trapped in there and then you got eaten by the spider web as if you are a fly. That's basically what fear is about. You have imagination about things. Perhaps you can kind of see it, kind of not, or you worry that you're going to run into that and then you're going to get swallowed by it. But that is what fear really is. Fear is lack of awareness. Fear, it comes from lack of awareness of things, and therefore they look like the boogeyman, even though they are actually a tiny little spider. They look like a monster that invisible, the invisible monster of the spider web that is waiting to swallow you alive, even though it's something that you can even just use your hand. I mean, if you don't like it, you might get a little grossed out, but you can just use a little your hand and push it aside, and that's over it. And so that is what fear really is. But I love these discussions on overcoming fear, because for me, every time I do something, it's also back to not only what it is, but why do you even want to do that? I mean, why do you want to bother to have to overcome fear? And I'm going to quote Yoda. I'm going to quote Yoda from Star Wars on why it's very good for you to overcome or to be able to move past your fear. And Yoda say, fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. And so we'll invest the next 50 minutes here, 45 minutes in helping you starting to be able to move past your fear. And what do you think about that quote, Nomsa?
Agree with you, and also Carol Ann being scared of the spiders, and fear and anger and everything. I think it all goes together, because when you don't deal with the fear, that means there's gonna be frustration and there's gonna be anger, because you if you are fearing with to do something and you know in your heart you want to do that, it will lead to anxiety, it will lead to so much pain, basically because it's something that you desire to do, but there's a fear that is stopping you, saying no, you can't do this. So I used to be scared of spiders, Carol Ann, but now I don't. Because what I did was I spent all my life in Africa. Basically, my favorite thing was swimming. I basically used to spend time in the water, and all of a suddenly, I find myself being scared of being in the water. Then that's when I had to work on myself and realizing that actually, does the actually fear exist? So I wanted to find out why. When I was growing up as a child, basically I used to spend all day. If I'm not doing music, I would spend in the water. Then we used to have like a big river. I would be swimming in that river all the time with my friends. But all of a sudden, like, can come to the UK, I'm scared. I couldn't go to the swimming pool. Basically, I was scared, and then I had to work on myself. I had to meditate, and now I basically, because I was getting frustrated, I knew that I wanted, like, sometimes I'll go into the water, I'll go near the water if I want to go swimming, and I wouldn't. So I didn't want to spend time, money, swimming with somebody else, like retraining me. So I felt that it was I needed to deal with it on my own, whatever had gone on. And I think it was because some of my friends, one of my friend died in the water, and I think that was the cause of that. But unconsciously I was scared, but I wasn't aware until I went to the swimming pool. That's when I was like, I can't do it. And I wonder one day in South Africa, I think some of I basically, we were going on a holiday, crossing Limpopo, and some people, basically I was in that moment where I witnessed people trying to cross to enter South Africa illegally, and they were eaten by crocodiles. And it was a big thing, but I was there witnessing it. And since then, I didn't know that it actually affected me mentally. So that's when I come to the UK and trying to get into the water, I couldn't. And I had to work on myself through prayer, through meditation, to get rid of that fear that is inside of me. And now I'm okay. I can go to River Thames, and when my children are swimming, I can go to a swimming pool. I don't fear anymore. I don't have that fear anymore. So, but it was leading to frustration. And I was like, this is something I grew up doing it all my life. Why do I have to go and pay somebody else to train me over again? Because it was like going inside the water. It was like I couldn't do it. To me, it felt like it's something that I've never done before. It felt like I had to learn from the beginning. So I was like, why? So I had to work on it. And now I'm fine. I had to work without paying somebody. I'm fine. I'm good now. I can go in the water. I'm fine.
Yeah, I think that is, it's such an irrational thing, the fear. But from what you were saying, that vision, seeing people being eaten by crocodiles, that's a very real vision, that something is actually happening. And it's there, and it's that young you that captures that in the moment, because there's that anxiety, and it just then settles within you. So as you're growing up, that inner child has still got that fear there. And it is, as you say, it's just working on that and releasing that, so that actually it's like, well, that was then, it's not now. And being able to come to that rational part of your brain and thinking, well, this is the River Thames. There are no crocodiles here. It can't possibly take place. This is a swimming pool. There are no crocodiles here. And so it's being able to come up into that rational part of your brain that can actually think rationally, rather than shutting down into that irrational part of your brain that goes, oh, no. It was real then, it's going to be real now. So well done for actually working on that, because that must be a, something that feel. How does that feel for you, actually, Nomsa? I don't want to sort of decide for you. How does that feel?
I basically, I think it's because at the time I didn't deal with the situation. I just I moved on from it after the years. After we crossed, I moved on from it. But we even went to the place where we basically went by car. We even got out of the car and went the whole day watching the people being searched, some people searching for the survivor until the night. But that moment I thought I dealt with the situation and I left. I thought I was fine, but until I was trying to get to the water and I wasn't fine. But now I'm okay. I'm 100% okay, because I have dealt with the situation. I have faced the situation. But when I was facing the situation, I didn't have a clue why I was feeling that way until I remembered this is the event that happened. So I didn't have a clue. Yeah.
No.
When I was,
and that's right. You don't have a clue, do you? And it's these events that are right in our background, in our subconscious, that can run us, and it is getting it's bringing them to memory, so that you can then work on them and release them.
Happened. So what happened is, it's like it happened. I closed off. I thought it didn't affect me. I went on as normal, and with water, it was the most. I love music, but water was the most thing that I loved the most. But I never went back. I never went back swimming. But I think consciously it affected me a lot until I think 2 years ago, when I actually started finding out why can I get into the water, then that memory came back, that this is the reason why. So I had to meditate, I had to pray. There are so many things that I had to deal with it, but I didn't want to deal with it spending money. I decided to heal myself. So I prayed and I healed myself. And after that, there was a breakthrough. And that breakthrough, it really hurt me inside, because I realized that actually I was hurt watching people be eaten. 1 minute somebody's trying to cross and they are alive, and then the next thing I'm there and my family are watching on the news, and I'm in the middle of it. So it really, really, really hurt me a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I shut down the feelings. I decided to ignore the feelings instead of seeking help. I shut down the feelings, pretending is everything okay, like everybody else does.
So how does it feel now? Now that you've dealt with it, you can go swimming. How does that feel?
It feels good.
Yeah.
It does feel good. You know, when you deal with the fear, it does feel good. When you get that breakthrough, it feels really, really good. Because when you are going through it, there's a frustration, there's anger, as Dr. Biggett was saying. There's pain that you can't even explain, and for me there was so much pain, and I felt that I basically felt that I felt hopeless. That hopelessness feeling, that's how I felt. But now there's freedom. I'm free.
Yeah.
Now I'm free. There's
That's,
freedom.
yeah,
That I'm
it's
free.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I just like, there's a quote that I found this morning by Judy Bloom. It says, each of us must confront our own fears, must come face to face with them. How we handle our fears will determine where we go with the rest of our lives, to experience adventure or to be limited by the fear of it. And you have that choice, and you made that choice to not be limited by it, but to go into that adventure of clearing it. Is there something you'd like to add here, Dr. Brigitte?
I love that. Yes. When I was with my coach and mentor, and we talk about the fear, if I mention this is a very high level mastermind coaching, and whenever we notice somebody has fear, or we say, oh, I'm hesitant about this and that. So with fear, she always said, congratulations. Whenever we said there is a fear, she said, congratulations. To the point we know that very well. And we said, yes, it's congratulations. Why? Because when you have fear, it's actually an opportunity for you to either grow and or heal, just like Numsa illustrates so beautifully. I'm a very systematic person. So in other words, if I want to overcome some things, being a clinician is probably that's what make me approach things in a very logical, systematic way. If you come to me and say, I have a disease, which is a disease, whether it's a physical disease or an emotional disease, including fear, then I approach very systematically. You could just say, let's just start throwing Tylenol at you. But the best thing is to get to the root of that and say, okay, what caused this? And at the end of the day, the bottom line of fear is to be able to resolve it well, whether it's your physical disease or emotional, spiritual disease, you to get to the bottom of that. And with fear, it's basically a lack of awareness or from unresolved grief, one of the two. If you don't know what you're facing, it's all mysterious. If you ever go and if you ever have this experience, the same street you pass through every day, and now it's very foggy and it's a little bit dark. Look at it. How's everything look? Kind of strange and bizarre, and look at a little scary if you're not thinking quite right? And then the other part is unresolved grief, which is wonderful that Numsa illustrated beautifully. Basically, you are experiencing what many people label as a form of post-traumatic stress disorder, with your fear of the water afterward, and that many times practically every PTSD come from unresolved grief. Now, many people think grief is only death, divorce, diagnosis, and job loss, but there are actually grief. The definitions of grief is the unsettling feelings caused by a change in your familiar routine. So you cross river all the time. You don't see people got eaten by crocodile or any part of your life. And now you will be going along, crossing the river, and then going, boom. And it causes unsettling feelings because naturally you are human. We are human. When something like that, you're like, oh my God, same thing like you witnessed an accident. I have a friend who did driving here in Los Angeles, high speed, everything suddenly stopped. And somebody who was on a motorcycle tumbled over, landed right in front of her car. She was safe. She was unscratched. The poor guy landed in front of her car, and he wore a helmet. So his head fine, but he broke his neck right there and passed on the spot. And that is the same thing. And thankfully, my friend, being my friend, said, oh my God, and say, okay, let's make sure that you resolve this completely altogether. And so when you have fear, know that it comes from the two, and like Numsa says, and give you an example, then check back and say which one. If this is possibly an unresolved situations, then connect with me, because that's what I am an expert in. And if it is an awareness, any of us can help you have more awareness. And so that is something that I just love that. And same thing with what Carol Ann says too, to be able to look through things and move past beyond that. You're muted.
Marie Curie actually says that nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. And that's what I'm hearing in this conversation here. It is that understanding and becoming aware of what it is, and actually that questioning and how can you get through this. And I know Brandon Bays from the Journey, she always talks about looking into the mouth of the tiger, which is the fear, and stepping into it, because actually once you step into it, there's nothing actually there. It's like it dissolves. But there is something that I realize there is something deeper within us that sometimes that actually needs to be worked with, and that is some primitive reflexes. I didn't know about these until I went and did some training with these primitive reflexes, and they are stored in the brainstem, and they're to help us within the first year of life, and once they've done their job, they're meant to then fully integrate, and then some adult reflexes take over, and postural reflexes. But more often than not, these primitive reflexes are still there. They're still controlling us. And fear paralysis reflex is the very first one that we have. And literally it's what it says, fear paralysis. And it literally holds you. That's where you freeze. And that's where I suddenly realized that when I heard, well, actually, children or anyone that's muted, they suddenly can't speak. It's that fear paralysis reflex. And I suddenly thought, oh my goodness, all those children that I said, why aren't you answering me? Why won't you answer me? I'm talking to you, answer me. And it's like they can't, and you're actually dealing with something that controls you. And it isn't something that actually you grow out of. These reflexes you do not grow out of. They need to be properly integrated in your system. And so there are activities that you can do. There's processes that you can do that will integrate them. And I know that it's something that's actually, when I did this training, this was about 20 years ago, it was quite new then, not heard much about. Whereas now there are a lot of people talking about them. There are a lot of other trainings that are going on that integrate these reflexes in the different ways. So it's something worth looking at, because, as I said, they control you, and they are literally in the irrational part of your brain, where you have no access to language. Everything is shut down. So it doesn't matter how much you talk to somebody or try and rationalize with them, that what they're seeing or what they're doing, it's not real. They can't hear you and they can't communicate. And so it's being able to move out of that brainstem, out of that control, and move back up into the higher cortex where you've got that rational thought. You can it's like you go through that emotional center, and instead of being shut down, you are able to then move up into the higher cortex where you've got access to language, you've got access to communication. You can hear, you can see, and you can think clearly, and then you can respond rather than react. And that does take some actual work to do and be worked on. So that's something to bear in mind as well. If you find that maybe something is recurring fear-wise, that is so irrational, but it still grabs you every time. And that's something that does need some support. It isn't something that you can deal with necessarily yourself, because there are other reflexes that are then, it's like a chain reaction. There are other ones that would still be held in place and causing major problems with learning and behavior. And again, I've realized that, a lot of the learning or inability to learn was down to these reflexes. I know there's a whole host of other things that I've learned about since as well, but this was a key training that I did, and it actually freed me up. And something key that really came out of this one, that fear paralysis reflex, it's as if a part of me was given permission to grow up. I just said it's like I just grew up. And I remember doing this, practicing this on a pupil at school. The parents gave me permission to do this, and they said exactly the same thing. And this parent, she wrote into the head and said, she was so pleased, because she said, it's like, my son has grown up. This was a 16-year-old boy who couldn't do anything for himself, wouldn't look you in the eye, always had his head down, was now going out and doing things for himself, was looking you in the eye. And that's transformational, just that thing. And there's something about that one reflex that holds that inner child in place. That experiencing that growing up was like, wow, I stepped into a whole new world. But so that is, something to look at as well, and do reach out and find someone that can support you if you feel that it's more to do with reflexes and that you can't just deal with it. It's not a case of pushing through it. It's deeper than that. Yeah. So I don't know if any of you have heard of these reflexes at all, or so you're both muted.
Thank you so much, Carol Anna. I actually, I think for me, in order for me to help myself, is because I took a degree in psychology. That helped me a lot to be able to understand what was going on with my life, and to recognize, basically I was using my module when I was working, and basically sorting out my life and using the Bible and the scriptures. But when I was going through it, I realized actually my problems were deep, like in the way you were saying, that there was a shock that was within me, and that I had to deal with it. And I basically decided to lock my feelings inside, and I had to open that door to actually release those feelings, to be able to handle my worst fears, because those were my worst fears that I was facing. And what's funny is I basically never told anyone. I just decided to deal with it on my own, and with the idea, if it doesn't work out, I will go and get a therapist to help me, because I was basically determined to actually make sure that I get to where I needed to go without frustration, and basically it was something very important to me to cultivate, because when you want to plant a seed and if you can't do anything about it, it becomes pain, it becomes frustration, and it can change your life for worse. Basically, if it's something that you love to do, or if something that you want to do, and but it takes great discipline to actually get freedom out of fear. It takes great discipline. You have to be disciplined without because that would have caused restrictions physically for me. And I love going swimming. I love doing things. It would have caused so many things, but it came down to where how much I wanted to change. And at that moment I was willing to actually get my freedom back. And that's why I had to work on myself, and that's why by writing my goals, how I wanted to reach my goals, I had to work hard, really work hard. And I know there are some people that basically they give up, but you don't have to give up. If you have fear of doing something, you don't have to give up. You have to find the right people to help you. Like Carol Ann was saying, some problems you might be able to sort them out on your own, but some problems you can't. So if you are doing it on your own, you have to be disciplined. And for me, that was what basically the determination that made me basically get my freedom back and get my fear. And I had to have that awareness of sometimes we have these events that happens in our lives, and we think that we have dealt with them, but we haven't, and then they appear later to actually basically with fear. So then you have to deal with them. Over to you, Dr. Biget.
Yeah, that is, I would agree with both of you that it is some things that, like you said, you have many times. If it is a fear that was not inherent to you, and even fears that you think was inherent to you, it's a lot of times happen from an event. Even if it is that event is just somebody saying something that you did not resolve, that caused an impressions in you, then it's something that can cause up. And if it is an experience that, as Caroline says, get into the level of your mind, which is basically the reptilian brain or the primitive brain. That's very interesting. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is a very well-known, he was originally a chiropractor, but he's very well-known scientific-based personal development. He says that he did studies and shows that when you hear something and read something, that got into your brain. But when you have an experience that's impactful, whether it's a beautiful experience, says you getting married or something, or it's an experience that you would not want to ever have, like watching somebody got eaten by a crocodile or something, that get to you in the cellular level. And that's exactly why there are many times when talk therapy does not get to it, because the words get to us in the brain level, while the cellular level is a whole nother story. And that's something that you want to have people who are, when it's get into that, you can have all the discipline that you have. Now, Numsa's trained in psychology. So that's she's basically a psychology. But if you're not trained in psychology to start with, and you going around spinning around, then you would want to welcome help, because if you are not a psychologist or a coach to start with, then you're going to be spinning in the dark. And then the more you spin in the dark, the more you're frustrated. And then actually the more you reinforce your fear. And so you don't want to do that. And there are actually multiple things. One is awareness, like Caroline says, to be able to recognize this. Now, certain thing, being a grief transformation coach, I see many times when, yes, you have the awareness, you have all these things, and you have people doing even hypnosis and so forth, and it doesn't help still. And that's when doing something that are different modalities that get to you to the cellular level is actually can be helpful. And one of them is actually music and movement. When you move, you are when you move, you are doing things differently. When you move, you actually, if you ever move, if you ever exercise, things actually feel very different. And then the same thing when you are doing, you're listening to music, music gets to you in a very cellular level, which is very different than an actual way that you are just words. And so the one thing that I created for people to help people reach the part where words cannot touch. There is a part of trauma, grief, and fear that words cannot touch is actually something called Dance Away Sadness, Move Beyond Your Grief. And that's combined music as well as movement and specialized coachings that allow you to reach to that level. So if you try talk therapy, you've gone to your psychologist so many times, and you're like, at the end of the day, I'm still afraid of this, and I still don't clear that, then perhaps just check it out. You don't have to be working with me, even though I do work remotely and internationally, and or you can connect with me, and it's usually amazingly, because it's just a matter of reaching and releasing what's in your cell. Within a matter of 2-3 sessions, you will release everything that gets stuck in your cell and clear it out. And when you do that, like Numsa says, then you will release the frustrations and release the suffering, like Yoda says. and being able to have freedom, because at the end of the fear, the other side of fear is freedoms, and you deserve to have your freedom.
You certainly do deserve to have your freedom. And it is, again, it's a choice. Do you want to stay stuck in the fear, or do you want your freedom? And I love what Zig Ziglar says, that FEAR has two meanings. First one is forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The choice is yours. And so, again, as Dr. Brigitte was saying, the choice is yours, that you don't have to stay stuck in that space. There is freedom. You can go through the fear into freedom and resolve it. So, again, I'm reminded of something that was said to me that made me start thinking and started to be fearful about something I hadn't even thought about. I used to, when I was about 15, 16, I used to go and live with my aunt and uncle and help them with the boarding kennels that they had, looking after the dogs. And I would walk the dogs down the field, this huge field, and I'd go walking down the field, and I'd walk their own dogs at night down the field. It didn't bother me. And until somebody said to me, it was my cousin's wife, she said, "Aren't you frightened to go down there? How do you know there's not someone the other side of that hedge?" And I went, I never thought about it. But from that point on, it was there in my head. And I remember going down the field and thinking, oh, and I thought, no, the dogs would bark. They'd chew anybody off, you know. So I was able to be more rational about it. But it brought in that thought. And I didn't even have it to start with. But I knew the dogs would have protected me. I mean, these were German Shepherd dogs. You know, my aunt and uncle's dogs. And the two that I used to walk at night down the field, they'd have really seen somebody off, you know. So, but that is amazing how someone else's own fear can feed something. And if you're not clear, you don't allow yourself to be in that clear, rational space. That could have stopped me going and doing something I really enjoyed doing. You know, I used to play with the dogs down the field because the grass used to be quite high. So I'd run away and I'd throw a stick for them and I'd go and hide, or and they'd come and chasing after me. So I had fun. So again, it's that you either have that freedom to live your life as you want to, or you can be stopped. And that choice is yours. So, and something I like that Henry Ford said is one of the greatest discoveries a man makes, one of his greatest surprises, is to find he can do what he was afraid he couldn't do. And I thought, wow, that's a lovely, beautiful thought. So imagine that discovery. I wonder what you could discover, what surprise you could find the other side of that fear. What freedom could you get? And as Dr. Brigitte said, I love the sound of what you were saying, Dr. Brigitte, because yes, where thoughts and words can't touch you because you don't have access to language, music, movement is a beautiful thing, can really shift things. So I'd love to hear more about that and again explore that, because music is beautiful and amazing, and movement. So yeah, do take that up. And it is worth thinking about. Do you want freedom or do you want fear? The choice is yours. As Zig Ziglar says, the choice is yours. So is there anything else that you want to say, Dr. Brigitte?
That is beautiful, Carol. And you mentions you want to. I actually do kind of like a public. I do it as a private coaching small group, but I also do public sessions remotely, but the online. Of Dance Away Sadness, so you can kind of have an idea on what it is. The next one is on Saturday, October 16. It's in the morning here in the US, but with the time difference, it will be, I think, in the late afternoon with you. So I'll provide you that.
Sounds good.
October 16 is the next public Dance Away Sadness. And yes, it is, the choice is you. Do you want to have freedom? And not only freedom, it's also peace of mind. If you were living, the walking dogs is one thing, but just like with NUMSA, I mean, imagine how many things you would miss in your life if you did not resolve the fear. She did not resolve the fear that she has. She's taking the kids to the pool and she's too afraid to get into the pool. And that is just the feeling of the anguish of that is lack of peace of mind that come from that. And then the regret. What if one of her kids got in trouble in the water, and she's actually a good swimmer, except she's afraid of the water now. And imagine if you were still afraid of water, and then you just sit there, watch your kid, what kind of regret that is. And we know that there's a saying, fear is temporary, regret is forever, unless you work on it even more. And as a grief transformation coach, I know it's a lot easier to resolve fear and trauma than to resolve regret. can resolve regret, but still it is something that actually take even more intense work. And so what is it that you want to choose? Do you want to choose peace of mind? And knowing that there are studies, many studies now shows that actually 85% of your worry, and worry is a manifestation of fear, 85 to 90% of your worries never happen. So we know that. And so what are you worrying about? What are you worrying about? And so let's face it. Let's help you face it and resolve it and move beyond that so you can have your freedom, and you can have even more than the freedom. It's actually the peace of mind. There are studies showing that 90 something studies showing people who are at the end of their life, and when they check with them, it is people do not regret things they've done. People regret things they have not done. So what can you do today to allow you to have more peace of mind and more ease and more freedom? And as Yoda says, no longer suffering in silence. So reach out to us, reach out to any of us. We're here to be able to help you. If you have something that in you, reach out to me and we'll be able to check out Dance or Sadness on the 16th, and you'll be able to easily and with fun, because the dance is actually fun. That's the point with dancing. You can release all these things that stuck in you, whether it's grief or trauma, and doing that, having fun, because fun is always help things flow a lot easier and better.
Yeah, fun definitely is.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Biggett. And at the beginning, you talk about the anger. The anger. When I was feeling angry at that time, it didn't come from the disappointment. It came from the surprise. When you're being surprised that actually I thought I can do this, but what is going on now? So at that moment I knew that I had to do something about it, and I did it. And I like your dance away with the music to get rid of pain, to get rid of grief, because when you dance, basically you are releasing everything. You release everything. You are saying to pain, because everything, your body gets tight when you are sad. So you are releasing everything. Basically, I love that idea. Which is really, really good, and it does help as well. And even when I'm sad, music and dancing, it does help me a lot as well. So for those who are watching Ghost Talk shows, please, if you want to get in touch with Dr. Biggett, you can get in touch with her and dance away your pain. And if you want to get in touch with Carol Ann, you can get in touch with any of our speakers at Ghost Talk shows, and just work on yourself. Because there are so many people that you hear saying, I want to do this, but I can't. If you really, really want to do something, you will do it. You will make time for it, and you will basically make sure that your goals are fulfilled, and you do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, you will do it. And basically, I was doing modeling over the weekend, and I had to do the training. I had to do whatever it takes because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And when I was going on stage, like Dr. Biggett says, dance away your pain. When I was making mistakes with the steps, I just dance away, just to get rid of my people off my legs, and then they just started smiling and just started clapping, and they didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I knew this is what I was doing, and even my coach, she knew this is what I was doing. Just dance away the pain and just have fun. So I could see everyone is not looking down, they're all looking up, and they're all starting to do this. I'm like, it's working. So so yeah, any words of encouragement? So Carol Ann or Dr. Biggett, or you guys are done?
just a couple of things. If in the moment you're really stuck and you're just frozen to the spot, there is a point on your foot that you can hold. It's the end of the kidney meridian. And meridians are just lines, energy lines that run over the body. And at the bottom of your foot, so imagine this is your foot, these are your toes. You've got the ball of your foot. Just here is a dip. That's the end of the kidney meridian, or the start of the kidney meridian, what we call K1 points. If you hold those, just put your finger on those 2 points. You just sit and put your thumbs on those 2 points and just breathe. That will help to alleviate the fear in that moment. So that's something that you can do in that moment to help release that frozen to the spot. I can't move. But I'd just like to leave you with what Dale Carnegie says. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit at home and think about it. Go out and get busy. So yeah, go busy, go walk, go dance, listen to music, okay? So have fun and stop thinking about it. So that's my last bit of advice here today.
I love that. And that leads to my last final message for you today, which is, yes, get into action and get into actions, and congratulations, as my mentor says it. If you notice fear, then it's time for you. It is this life telling you that here's an opportunity to grow and to heal. Now, like everything else, you got to take actions. You can't go, as Jim Carrey says, sit on the couch and eat a sandwich and do nothing else. And so, time to take actions. If you notice any fear, reach out to us. And before you know it, you will have the freedom and the peace of mind. But you got to reach out. You got to do the work like Numsa did, like all of us did. And so we're here for you. Connect with us. We look forward to hear from you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Live with grace. Have a lovely, lovely weekend, and God bless you.